Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to have Naomi Reina here. Naomi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm doing so good because we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, and that's astrology, and especially the moons. And so the moon phases. So yeah, this is my friend. We've known each other for
Several years.
Oh yeah, I mean, DYT. So what was that? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I got super in it, I want to say in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah,
So,
it was about that time. So Trusting Your Truth, for anyone that doesn't know, DYT, I used to work there, and um, I got very involved in that, and I met some really great type 1 friends, and that's how I met Naomi. And we've just kind of circled each other, and she just got my attention about, I don't know, a year or so ago, and she started talking about astrology. And at first I was like, I don't know about that, because I didn't believe that I was a Virgo at all. Like I just didn't believe it. But then I realized it was because of trauma, right? And like you can really hide yourself through your pain. And so as I started learning more and more, I just couldn't get enough of it. And we learned about human design, and I was just so excited about all of it. And now I find myself here and looking towards your certification program that I just signed up for. I'm so excited. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is the moon. And as me being a Cancer moon, that's kind of my jam.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. I love it.
So can you explain a little bit how you got into astrology? How did that all happen?
So I've always been really into like personality systems like DYT and, taking the color code and all of that. But I never saw any value in astrology at all. Anytime I saw any descriptions of my sun sign, which is Sagittarius, I was like, not me. I'm not obnoxious was kind of like the one negative trait that I focused on. I'm just very mindful to not be obnoxious. And so I was getting my hair done by this new gal when I moved to a new town. And she was like, so when's your birthday? And I was like, oh, I'm a Sagittarius. I knew what she was going after. I knew she was into astrology. I was like, but I don't really resonate with any of that. She's like, okay, do you know the minute you're born? And I was like, yeah, here you go. And so she runs my chart like while she's cutting my hair. And she proceeds to tell me all of this deeply personal stuff about myself that like I'd known people for more than a decade that I hadn't told that stuff to, or I hadn't even found the words to articulate that yet. And I was like, I feel naked. And I need to know everything that you know. Like, how did you do that? It was the most powerful personality system that I'd ever come across, and very complex, obviously. And after that, I just basically became obsessed and started unpacking a lot of my life decisions and how I got to where I was. And astrology had the most actual answers to why I chose what I chose and how I could choose differently moving forward of anything that I've ever come across. So from there, I just kept digging and diving, and then stumbled upon human design as well. And now it's my whole world, it seems.
Yeah, I know. It's just like once you get a little taste of it and like it really resonates with you, you just want to just feast and feast and feast and feast. I dream about it. I wake up.
I run charts in my dreams.
I do.
All the time. Yeah, like, for sure.
What is happening? Yes. Oh, so wonderful. So wonderful. I totally agree. Just the science of it, it feels like it's something you can find more proof and like depend on more. And so I
love that it's objective instead of subjective. A lot of the personality systems, like when I first took the color code, 2 decades ago, it said I was a blue. And I deeply wanted to be that softer, more lovely, more like compassionate, connected person. And absolutely, that's a part of who I am. But that was a very subjective, because I was answering the questions the way that I thought I should. And I love that astrology is like, there it is. Like, this is why you are the way you are. And it's like, no, I hate that. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you hate it. It just is. And so it gives you that chance to have to work through some stuff.
It does.
And also for me, it was this powerful permission to stop being what I thought I should be and just be who I was. And it was like, oh, I can be this thing that I've always wanted to be. Like, really? It's like, yeah, it's right there in your chart, like a whole lot in your chart. And it's like, do that thing. And it's like, awesome.
I'm totally with you 100%. It's crazy how much I thought that I wanted to be a Leo. I wanted to, and I thought it was even my rising sign, and I wanted to like be in the limelight and, have attention, and I just like, and be such a people person and expressive. And that is definitely a part of me, and it comes out. But I felt like every time I did that, I would burn out so fast. And I was like, why is this happening? Oh, I'm a moon in Cancer. So it's just really, and then I was like, wait, so I can go back home and recharge and like be by myself and like find peace and, and just like this inner peace that I've always wanted my entire life, that can be mine. And I totally resonate with what you're saying. It was just like,
Absolutely.
what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then still honoring the Leo part of you, because you absolutely have Leo, not just in your chart vaguely, like everybody does, but you're a Mercury Leo. So the way you think and communicate, and I see a lot of people, they kind of can stuff themselves into their Mercury sign if it's different than their sun sign, because it's closest to their mind, and we love to let our mind make decisions, and it feels safer. It's less vulnerable. So we're like, oh, this is what I am. And I see it often. And we kind of contort ourselves into this other version of ourselves and kind of try to march around like that. And it's very exhausting.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was like, I cannot do this because I need to have permission to be safe and be by myself and not always be out there
and be emotional. So emotional in with people that you feel safe with. My youngest is a Cancer moon, and he absolutely he will be very emotional at home with me and like all of that, but like when he's out and about, he is not that way. And it's not a falseness. It's just, how are you when you're safe with your safe people, and how are you when you are that way? Like, I'm a Virgo moon, so my Virgo shows up the strongest and most freely at home with my safe people. And I felt a lot of shame over the Virgo energy, because I was like, oh my gosh, if people knew how neurotic I actually am, right? Which is so different than Sagittarius, which is why I don't allow myself to be the obnoxious, like party hard, like, drinking and staying up all night Sagittarius that you'll see in the memes and stuff. It's like, that makes sense. It, like, the balance of the two is what makes me me. And it's just now I love it. Now I cherish my own wiring, where for the longest time I kept trying to push who I was away, not realizing that that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So let's talk moons. Okay. So I know a little bit about moons, and mostly I've learned from your Facebook group. By the way, you need to talk about your Facebook group, because it's like one of the best resources I have found.
I love that.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
I love teaching. I can't not teach. So my Facebook group is called Light-Filled Astrology and Human Design. We do lots of conversations. I do a lot of posts about like what's currently happening. We also have a Living by the Moon course that comes twice a month with the new moon and the full moon. And I have one of my certified Light-Filled astrologers who is running that and just does an amazing job. And it will show you how to like work within it, manifest, process. And it's $22 a month. And so it's like a crazy awesome deal. But the Facebook group, of course, is free. Lots of really good stuff in there. And I'm constantly creating new courses and teaching. And then, of course, I have my certification, like you had mentioned. But the group is, especially for people that are brand baby new and they're like a little overwhelmed, that's my jam. Like people that are like, I feel called to learn more about this whole thing, but I don't know who to trust to teach me, because I teach light-filled astrology and human design, which means we keep God at the center. We give the glory and credit to God, and we don't try to sidestep around that and use this other platform instead of God. absolutely, I believe that we have all of this because of God. So we keep that at the forefront. So many people in there are brand new. We still have quite a few that are knowledgeable, but the majority come in saying, I don't know even which way is up with all this stuff, and I've got you.
I love it. Yeah, it's a great support as well. And you can ask questions, and it's really a safe place. And it's been wonderful to just be able to explore. I just learned so much from other people, and them, bringing up their charts and being like, what does this mean?
Yes. Yes, it's huge. Just even if you never comment, if all you do is just kind of sit there and observe, you'll learn more than you even knew. You don't even know how much stuff you don't know until you start reading through some of those comments, and it's so helpful.
It is so helpful. Okay, so what I know about the moon is, and what I've learned is you have a YouTube video that taught me a lot about this, but so the new moon is all about like going internal and more inward. And then it's where we manifest, where we plant seeds of what we want, right? So we get more clear on what we don't want so that we can plant the seeds of what we want. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much putting in, it's a deep and profound focus on what do you want to create over the next 2 weeks, over the next month. So as we go into the full moon and then into the next new moon, and then also over the next 6 months, because we just had a new moon in Aries, is the most recent one that we've had from before this recording. And so it's a new moon in Aries because the sun is in Aries. And when the sun is in Aries, the new moon is going to be in Aries because it means that they're at the same point in the sky, because the sun is here and the moon is here and Earth is here. So that's what makes it an Aries new moon and Aries season. Now, when we have a full moon next that's coming up, it'll be a Libra full moon because the sun is still in Aries. And so the moon will be on this side of Earth. Earth is in the middle. And that's what makes it a full moon. And so what happens is with the new moon in Aries, the next time we have a full moon in Aries will be in Libra season in about 6 months. So the seeds that we plant at the new moon in Aries will carry over, and some of them will blossom over the next 6 months until we're at the fullness of that Aries energy, the full moon in Aries. So that's part of the flow with all of this that makes it so powerful. And what's really awesome about Aries season of 2023, we had the new moon at 0 degrees, just barely into Aries season. We have another new moon in Aries before the sun leaves Aries at 29 degrees. It's very rare because you have to basically have it like at 0 degrees and 29 degrees because the moon goes around the whole zodiac in 29.3 days. And so the chances of this happening are holy shnikes, we have so much new planting energy this year. It's like a double push off because Aries is the new, it's the beginning of the zodiac. It's the start of everything. The new moon is the new beginning of everything. So the universe is giving us double chances. I'm like, wow, what is happening? I haven't researched it actually, but when was the last time we had 2 new moons in Aries? It could be a very long time. I should look that up. I apologize. I didn't have that ready in time for this, but go Google it if you're watching this.
I didn't realize that.
It's such a big deal.
Wow. So so you have the new moon that's all about new beginning and planting what you want. And then the Aries is all about that. So it's just very, just plant away, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just, and both are very different. 0 degrees Aries is very different than 29 degrees Aries because each sign is 30 degrees. So after 29 degrees, we go into Taurus.
Right.
So
that would be different.
Yeah, a little technical, but worth it. Yeah.
The technicalities, the details, that's the thing. That's your thing.
I love the details.
Yes, me too. As Virgo sun here, Virgo moon there. We love the details. We love the details. Okay. So and then what happens at the quarter moon? So the next phase.
So the quarter moon, I'm a quarter moon baby. The quarter moon is when the sun and the moon are at a 90-degree angle. So it's halfway in between. So it's half lit up and half dark. And it happens as it is coming to the full moon, and it happens as it's going out to the new moon. So we have 2 chances. And the energy of that, so the energy of a full moon is there's an oppositional, because the sun and the moon are in opposite sides of the sky, Aries and Libra, or Taurus and Scorpio, or Gemini and Sagittarius. Like there's an opposition. So that's why people act crazy during the full moon, because there's like, you get both, and it's a stretch, and it pushes our boundaries, and it makes us push. So babies born during a full moon have an opposite sun and moon all the time. And babies born during a quarter moon have a squaring sun and moon all the time, like me.
Oh, okay.
Like Leo, Virgo and Sagittarius are squaring each other. So I'm born right during the quarter moon. And so I have that perpetual, like, working it out and kind of pushing on each other, where so a baby born during like a new moon, their inner world and their outer world are kind of fused together, because the sun and the moon are at the same place in the sky.
I see.
Yeah,
Wow.
just absolutely endlessly fascinating.
That is so interesting. So what do you do? What actions do you take at the quarter moon then?
So the quarter moon will be a lot about, it is about action. It's about either furthering like you plant the seeds at the new moon, and then it'll be about a week later that we'll hit the quarter moon. You'll be looking for inspiration on actions to take on what it is that you are looking to create as you're waxing up to the full moon. And then as you're waning down to the new moon, you're going to be looking for the actions of what to let go of, like what it is that the seeds that you're going to be planting, because as you kind of wind down. So it's very much a like transition point, because the classification for the quarter moon is a more narrow time frame than like the crescent moons have like a longer time frame on the calendar. And so it is more of a point, like a turning point from being fully lit to fully dark, or from fully dark to fully lit. It's that transition point.
Okay. So like when you have a half moon, so is that more of like acting on the impressions? Is like taking more action?
A lot of times it'll look like action, like rubber meets the road action. And it could be action like a shift inside that doesn't look like an external action, but it's oh, I see this differently now. And I no longer need to, like, you just have a perspective shift, when you have those like, oh, I've been mad about this thing for like 4 years. And all of a sudden I can see why I need to just let that go or whatever. And it can just happen in that moment. And so you're looking for those shift points. And then with the full moon is the time for the fullness and the harvesting and the culmination, because everything is illuminated. The emotions are center stage, and it's so potent and it's so powerful. What is inward is fully lit up, and it's the time to purge and to release and to let go and to do the right and burns, to do the releasing exercises, it's not the time to manifest what you want. It's time to release whatever is in the way of manifesting, or to receive what you manifested.
Okay. That makes sense. Oh, cool. So that's like a good time to look at like trauma, right? The full moon.
Yes, that's when it's good to release the trauma, because trauma definitely is like, you may feel prompted to be looking at trauma like during the new moon, because you're wanting to plant seeds of healing. And so you start to, because the new moon with the planting seeds can often be like taking inventory and categorizing things and making lists. And like, it's like you get quiet and inward, because the moon, as we watch her go, she goes quiet. She disappears during that new moon. We don't see her for a couple of days or more. And she's still there, but she needs to just hide away for a while to kind of regroup. And so it's kind of like, if you say no to all of the social invitations and you go home and you like clean out your closets, or, sort through your filing system, or go through all of your digital, whatever, to like make sure everything is like in alignment with the plans that you have for the future. It's very much that inward closing in. And so we might find that we don't want to go to the girls' night out, or things that we're like, oh, I normally love this. It's that new moon energy is saying, no, sweetheart, just like come inward, or just be quiet, just be still with the people that you really love, or even just be alone. And in a healthy way. And it just can be very closing in, where when the full moon is there, it's like, I want to plan everything. I'm going to book that speaking engagement. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And you want to be seen. And so
You want to be seen. Okay.
it's beautiful to, like, if you run your own business, like schedule a launch, like on or coming up to a full moon, or book that time to be on stage. Like, if you can help it, right? If you're noticing like, oh, that's going to be right during a new moon, you might find that your voice isn't as much there. Now, the menstrual cycle can be so interesting because it can sync up in a way that's very reflective, which is more typical, especially when we don't have all the digital stuff. We usually ovulate during the full moon and menstruate during the new moon. And some people are flipped and some people don't follow anything, but to take into account both, because menstruation is more of that inward time, go and regroup. You need to be doing less. You need to cut back on hours. You need to say no to all the social and the going and the push. Like, maybe if you're a gym going person, maybe don't do the aggressive routine, do something more gentle and slow, like yoga. And then with the full moon, it's more action and activity and go. And so just kind of taking both into account can be really helpful. But with the energies of the universe, the full moon is this blossoming, and it's like everything is up and out, so that it's like, as you go up, if stuff comes out to be processed, processing and like therapy is a skill. And for people that are new to it, it can be really scary when all of a sudden you're laughing and it's wonderful, and then you just start crying. And it's like, oh, like, and we can be in so much shame, and we can be like, what's happening? It's like, sweetie, you're just hitting a really high emotion point. And if you haven't dealt with a lot of this stuff, it can kind of unearth, like, you imagine like loosening up stuff, and it can come out in all kinds of ways, and to just not shame and just allow it to happen. And just notice what's happening. And if things need to come out, they get to come out.
Yeah. So you're saying the full moon kind of pulls stuff out.
It can. And so just, you can't even like schedule it. You can totally be like, okay, we're creating a bonfire, be safe, follow safety protocol, all the things, get a permit if you're doing something somewhere, but like do the thing where you could like gather a whole bunch of girlfriends and be like, okay, like this is what we're doing. And, maybe have somebody there that knows how to facilitate stuff like this, because if you just want to get together and like bash about your trauma, that's fine, but you just might end up amplifying the trauma.
Totally.
But to really release and to just take things out, and then allow whatever gets to flood in, that light of the full moon and the light of God and all of that just can flood into that empty space that's created, and you can receive what you've been manifesting because you release and let go.
Oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. I have noticed that I tend to want to declutter right before the new moon. Is that normal?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's very much that, like, I need to organize. I need to, like, if I'm going to start making plans, like, imagine you're going to go out and plant seeds if you're a gardener, and there's just stuff is out of order. Yeah. Like, you have to order everything. Plus you're a Virgo, so you're gonna be like, this will not do.
Yeah.
And so just going and kind of making everything linear in a way that it can receive those plans is very normal.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of feel like I want to create a really beautiful, safe. I mean, my Cancer is probably like, I want to feel as safe as possible as I go inward. So yeah, I just wondered if that was just me, or if that was kind of normal. So
I think many people experience it that way, but I would imagine those with predominant Virgo placements will be like, oh, amen, sister.
Yeah, I need cleanliness. I need order, because, and I feel like even creativity, I feel like I need cleanliness in order to create.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're doing, right? You're creating, you're planting, and you're creating.
I personally feel like the more order I have, the more fun I can have, is like kind of, so like similar, because if things are in order, you can move faster, you don't have to delay, you can be more spontaneous when things are in order.
Right.
Very Sag Virgo thing going on, like, let's make things orderly so I can just go have whatever fun I want whenever I want to.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh, this was so good. Okay, so you talked about rituals for full moon. What are the rituals that you would suggest for a new moon?
So very much like journaling on like, what do you want to create? Like what, it's a perfect touch point to just check in and say, what does my most ideal life look like? Because I'm just so passionate that we need to figure out what it is that you want and absolutely say no to everything that's not that. And create a like, if life were flowing in the most ridiculously awesome way, what would that actually look like? And revisit that, because it's amazing how much we limit ourselves. Like we have that ceiling. And so as you do this, you'll get more comfortable and you'll actually start seeing that stuff show up in your life. It can be so simple. Like, it's like, how would you dress if you were living the ideal life? How would you take care of yourself? What would you be eating? When would you be eating? Like, who would you be spending time with in the most ideal circumstances? Like all of this, like I did this a while ago and I revisited a lot, and it's like, I want to be doing at least one healing modality a week. Like something that I'm doing that's helping to heal. And a lot of it is centered around body work, like receiving a massage, a foot zone, chakra balancing, like, and I want to own 7 different chakra balancing tools, right? Like, and so I'm collecting those and I'm growing that. But if I hadn't defined it, I couldn't recognize it when it shows up. I couldn't say, oh, that's what I want to receive. Instead, we walk right past the very thing that would bring us so much happiness. And it doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to mean that you need to figure out how to make $300,000 a year. You'd be surprised when you really let yourself define what true joy and happiness and satisfaction and success looks like for you, how little that it actually takes. Because most of us don't actually want a super extravagant life. Most of us want some form of freedom and autonomy and personal power and safety. And that doesn't always require a lot of financial. And so allowing yourself to dream beyond like the 3-dimensional, like, I'd like to manifest $10,000 this month, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with manifesting $10,000 this month, but $10,000 doesn't actually do anything. It's like, what does the $10,000 mean to you? What does it create for you? And maybe you don't need $10,000 of cash to do that. It's amazing how the universe just is so eager to bless us in very creative ways. And so really just letting yourself kind of move with that. I turned mine into a checklist on my phone. So I can literally, like, because of course Virgo moon.
Yes.
So I can literally just be like, okay, got that. And I can see and I can edit it, where like I made my list initially. And after a few months, it was like, this thing just doesn't light me up. It doesn't actually like motivate me. I put it on there because I thought I should. And instead I'd adjust it this way or just delete it entirely or whatever. So it is very much a like you can go into this sacred creation space and arrange all the pieces in the way that you'd want them, and then they take root after you arrange them.
Right.
And we're constantly doing that no matter what part of the moon cycle we're in. We're constantly like pulsating towards what we want. But during the day before, the day of, and the day after the new moon, it is especially heightened, whether you're aware of it or not. And so that's when those things that you're planting, whatever you're emotionally focusing on with any level of intensity, is what is going to grow roots. So if you are intensely worried about your bills, or you're intensely worried about your partner or your children, or that this isn't going right, the universe says, okay, during the new moon. And it's like, we will grow more of that. Thank you so much for your submission. And it's like, wait, I didn't submit anything. It's like, you sure did, sweetheart. So just being so mindful, and like, you don't have to be like neurotic and vigilant, but if you just take like 10 minutes during that 3 days, like, it's amazing how potent intentional seed planting is. You don't have to monitor yourself for like 72 hours straight and be like, I can't think a negative thought. Like, don't become crazy about it, but just let yourself.
Are you in my brain?
I know, a little bit. And it's not just you. I promise you. It's amazing just how little of that intentional, passionate emotion that we need to create the life that we want. It's so, if people knew and that they fiercely protected the space that they did, and that they didn't create an equivalent level of worry
Mhm.
lives would change. And I've experienced that. It's real for me. Nobody can
Yeah.
tell me otherwise because I keep seeing it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just get out of our own way, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I frequently will like cancel, delete. I actually just the other night, my husband and I were talking, and I had said something very contrary to what I want to create. And like it just came out, and I just could feel it. Like as soon as it came out, I was like, cancel, delete. And then I like repeated 3 times, like the opposite of like what I want to create. And he's just like, because he's new to this whole world, right? Like he's never been around any of this until he careens into me, because we've only been married 2.5 years. And he's seen enough to know that like it's legit and I know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
But he just was like, that's amazing. Because he saw me like flip my mindset and refuse to take a defeatist attitude about something. And it was like, I don't care. It's not hard. It's easy. And it always comes to me perfectly. And it's in the right timing. And everything is just as it should be right now. And just like anytime I slip into that, like, oh, this is so hard. Oh, like I can't even like pretend to sit in that energy, because like I refuse to believe that anymore.
Hmm. Well, and your awareness, as you do this work, your awareness gets so much more heightened as well.
And you
Right.
have to dismiss the shame and your ego. You have to, because shame is very unproductive. It's not something you can fully get rid of. It's just part of being in this world. But I teach my students a lot. We go over this a lot in the certification because it's so vital when you're doing astrology. That you need to dismiss your ego. You need to say, thank you so much. Like, I love that you're trying to keep me safe, but for the next little bit, like while I'm, writing this out, or while I'm looking at this chart, or while I'm in this meditation, I need you to leave. And so you just kind of picture in your mind's eye, like your ego, and not being angry at it, not like tying it up or beating it up or trying to kill it. It's so icky. Instead, you just say, thank you, sweetheart. Like, I appreciate your neurotic thoughts that are constantly telling me everything is terrible. I see that you're trying to keep me safe. I need you to step out of the room. And so picture in your mind your ego literally walking out the door, and then you gently close the door behind them. You don't have to lock it, but it's closed. And then you're in a room, in a space that's free of ego for a while. Maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's the rest of the day. But just giving yourself that break, because it doesn't matter if you do everything we just talked about. If shame and your ego are just like completely terrorizing you, you're not going to get results, because the seeds that you'll be planting will be so woven with like, oh, you should manifest this, and you should look into this. And it'll just be this, it'll be chaotic. And so if anybody watching this, that they've never really taken the time to dismiss that, that may be the thing that's preventing you from receiving the life that you want. Is if you're creating with shame and ego involved, it's going to be minimally effective, if at all.
Right. Totally. So good. Oh, you are so wise. You wise Sagittarius, you.
I got this way by doing the opposite for a long time.
Isn't that the truth?
So I was not born. I did not wake up like this.
You were rebirthed. You were reborn.
Yeah. These lessons are written on my heart, because I just, like so many of us, like you go through the hard stuff, but I was very blessed to see the information that was actually going to provide that like permanent progression. When you like, I can't go back to the person I was before. I'm literally like, I'm incapable of shrinking down to the depths that I've been to. And that is, it's a beautiful feeling.
What a gift too, right? To just like have that confidence that I can't go back. I remember when God first told me that, it's like, you are only moving forward and you can't go backwards. I was like, oh, yes. It just gave me so much more confidence and peace. So, okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about how the different zodiacs give the moon a flavor. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I like to see the planets as filters, and the moon isn't a planet, it's a luminary, but in the context of astrology, it's grouped in with the planets.
Yeah.
And so like, if you have a Cancer moon, that's going to be a very different expression than the Cancer sun or a Cancer Mercury or things like that. The moon is the filter that we process our emotions, and it's how we experience that inner world. Like we will show our moon sign to people when we feel very safe with them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times we discover, oh, I'm not even sharing this part of myself with the people that I consider the closest in my life. That can be a clue on how well the intimacy is in your relationships. So you take the energy of whatever it is. Most of us are familiar, at least minimally, with the different energies of the zodiac, like we've heard them. But you've got
Mhm.
fire signs, water signs, air signs, earth signs. So you look at like, what is the element of the sign that your moon is in? Like yours is in a water sign in Cancer. Mine is in an earth sign with Virgo. So you take that and then you put it through the filter of your emotions are going to be more watery. They're going to be more emotive. They're going to be less logical. I mean, they're emotions, but you can have logical emotions and less logical emotions. And you can have fiery emotions and you can have intellectual emotions. And so just kind of looking at that context will start to give you an idea of how your moon is expressing. And for some people, they have a very, quote, easy moon placement, like it's very easy for their emotions to be present and to share them and all of that. And some people have very challenging moon placements where the idea of opening up is literally significantly harder for them. And you can see it in the chart. And that can be so validating to be like, oh, like all the close people in my life have such an easy time expressing their emotions. I literally would rather die than do that. And now I can see why.
Yeah. So the zodiac that comes to my mind is Capricorn. Is that right? Moon in Capricorn.
So moon in Capricorn, like, so you've got moon in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, like we go around. And so the moon in Capricorn is actually it's what's called in its detriment, because it's the opposite, because the moon rules Cancer. Yes. So your moon sign is at home. You have all the emotions and all the feels. And the moon in Capricorn, it just means you have different superpowers. It means that you feel everything or nothing. And everything is so practical. Capricorn is such a grown-up energy. It's such a like, if I do this and this, how will it impact next week and in 5 years and in 100 years? Like it's a very forward thinking long-term, which is very different than emotions. Emotions are like, how do I feel in this minute? And so moon in Capricorn people can feel very validated, but ironically, moon in Capricorn people don't need to feel validated because they're like, I'm fine the way I am.
Yeah. That's true.
So,
yeah, I've run into like 4 different, I don't know why, but apparently I need to learn about Capricorn moons, because I've run into 4 different Capricorn moons I'm working with. They're my clients. And they all tell me I don't know how to access my emotions. They're like, I'm like emotion blind. And so I wondered if that was a Capricorn thing or if that was just a trauma thing. It was just
I mean, all of us have trauma that make it difficult for us to be vulnerable and access our emotions, like across the board. But yeah, a Capricorn moon is going to actually literally experience their emotions very differently than like a Cancer moon. As a Virgo moon, it's kind of like a softer version of the Capricorn moon. I'm very analytical because Virgo is the analytical sign. And so I analyze my emotions. And for the longest time, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought, like I do feel things, but like sometimes I can also be very clinical about how I see stuff. And it serves me well, just like all things are such a beautiful gift. But understanding that, I could be like, oh, okay, so I just have a Virgo moon. There's nothing wrong with me. And I can take very complex, overwhelming emotional situations and I can like break it down and like basically make lists of how to process stuff. And I coach myself all the time. I work through stuff myself in a very Virgo way. And then I, of course, am able to help people in a very Virgo way, but like, I'm not a trauma therapist. And so like, if somebody needs to actually process trauma, I refer that out because I stay in my lane now and I do what I'm called to do. And that is not everything. And so just knowing how my emotions process and that is a superpower in certain situations. In other situations, it's just not very helpful. And all of us have that where it's going to be very helpful and very unhelpful. So the Capricorn moon is in the more extreme category, of course, because it's in its detriment. And like a Cancer moon is the more extreme of like all the feels. Like if somebody needs to learn emotional intelligence, they need a healthy Cancer moon in their space to help them learn the language of emotions, because it is a whole world that is all the feels.
Yes. Yes. And that's how I understand emotions. I mean, I tried to do it through my Virgo sun.
Mhm.
I've always, my whole life,
Yes.
I've been trying to analyze my emotions, and I get in my head about my emotions, and it does not help me at
It will
all.
stop you for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't process. I
Yeah,
have to
definitely.
feel. I have
Mhm.
to feel. And I've just found this out because I told you my birth chart was wrong. So I just discovered this,
Yeah.
and
It's huge.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
huge. And
Mhm.
so allowing myself to actually like, okay, I'm not analyzing. I'm not, okay, Virgo, you gotta go, I send the Virgo out the door for a little bit so that I can just
Right.
feel.
Because your Virgo needs to lead. But when it comes to the feels, I have another friend that she's a Virgo with a Pisces moon. So kind of a similar conundrum as you.
Mhm.
And she has a hard time letting herself just move into all the feels and not trying to hyper analyze. Like I was joking with her. I was like, this isn't like you want to schedule like 10 minutes of crying. And she's like, I literally schedule time to process my emotions. And I'm like, wow, I'm a Virgo moon and I don't do that.
I totally do. I do.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I've got to hold it all together
Yeah.
until 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And to an extent, like that makes sense. And that is valid and real, but
Mhm.
you'll know because you won't be receiving the results that you want. You'll know that your Virgo is trying to not only handle the core of your life, but also the emotions of your life. And so it's so helpful to be like, thank you so much, Virgo energy. Like you are just wonderful. However, this is Cancer's turn. So we're gonna hand the baton, like just kind of understanding like there are separate areas that are governed in our lives, and that most of us have very different energies in those areas. And so giving ourselves permission to just move with that is so, so powerful.
Yeah, and kind of going back to like you were talking about shame. I think there's so much freedom
Mhm.
in knowing your moon sign.
Yes.
Yes, because then you're like, oh, I don't have to just, because like for you, you've probably been told you need to feel your emotions, you need to get in touch with your emotions, and so when you're like, I'm not like that, is there something wrong with me?
Well, I was
You
trying to be
know?
more sentimental. I thought I had to like hold on to stuff and cry about it and all of the things. And it's like, no, I can purge. I can be like, thank you so much. This was wonderful. That really meant a lot to me for a few years, but I'm done now. Like, and I can just be more like, okay, it's too messy in here. We need to get rid of some of this emotional crap. And like I get to just move with that. And it's just so much more helpful.
Yeah. So like if you have a fire sign in moon, you can go punch something and you'll be fine.
And be very physical, like go for
Uh-huh.
a hike, go to one of the smash labs, like go process things, be expansive, like do things in a big grandiose way. And also like you need to be able to be seen in a really big way at home, because especially if you don't have fire sign in your sun sign, like if your moon
Mm.
is sun, like I have a girlfriend that is a she was like, we should all get together and do karaoke at my house. I have like all this stuff. She's a Leo moon, but she's a Taurus sun. And I'm like, I don't do karaoke. Like, I don't. Like, my Virgo moon is like, absolutely not. Although I will perform on stage. I've been singing solo since I was 7 years old, but I don't
Uh-huh.
do karaoke. And it just makes me laugh because she loves karaoke because her Leo moon wants to be seen at home and perform at home. And I'm like, I love this for you. And that's totally great. But like, that sounds awful to me personally.
I love it. I love it so much. So how would you say like an air sign? What would an air sign moon? How would they process
They're
emotion?
going to need a lot of intellectual and communication, like especially a Gemini moon is going to need to talk through their emotions. An
Yeah.
Aquarius moon is going to be very intellectual and less like deep with the emotions, and they probably have like a heart for humanity, and they just like super super fiercely are constantly thinking about how they're going to help large groups of people. My youngest, or my middle one, is an Aquarius moon, and I asked him a couple of years ago, he's now 12, so he's like 10, and I was like, what do you think is your purpose for why you're here to be on the planet? And he was like, I am here to save humanity from itself. And I was like, oh, I'm like, okay,
That's
like
fun.
he didn't hesitate. He's a Leo, so he's a full moon baby. And he was like, this is what I'm here for. And I was like, okay, you're gonna need to be real clear. I'm like, listen very closely. I need you to be real clear on what God thinks that looks like, because I could see Hitler having a similar belief system. So like, just saying. And
Humanity. I love it. I love it.
And he has a stellium. He has 4 placements in Aquarius. So he is really, really, really here for humanity in a big
Yes,
way.
he is. Yes, he is.
But, and then his Leo self is like, I will do this thing. And I'm like, okay. Whew.
But we need to follow some structure and some rules.
No, manifesting generator. He's an emotional manifesting generator. He is so intense. All I can do is just like barely hope to like guide him as he like careens through life. Just like 2 degrees to the right, 1 degree to the left. Like that's what we're going with that one. And he's
Yeah.
amazing, and he has the biggest heart of all time. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But he, so it's so fascinating how like we all know our kids are all different and unique.
Yeah,
But to see like, oh, there it is. Like my 2 youngest literally could not be more different in most ways. They are so, they're not even opposite. They're so different. They don't even speak the same language. And it's like, there it is in their charts.
There you go. Oh, this was so fun.
I agree.
Thank you
This is
so
delightful.
much. Oh,
Absolutely.
so many good things that we talked about, and I just want to keep going. But yeah, so I will leave below your Facebook group link.
Yes.
And then it's alexology.com.
Yeah, Ilexology. You can also get there by going to learnastrology.com. Learnastrology.com takes you to my website.
What a nice domain. That's very simple.
Yes, I love me some good domains.
Yes. I love it. So learnastrology.com, I'll put that below. And they can run their own chart on your website for
absolutely. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So, and then you can have a chart made, right?
Yes, you can run a chart. You can even get an instant report for just $25 right on like my homepage. And I've got classes and everything, lots of goodies there. So even a link right to the Facebook page, right to the Facebook group, all of it. Follow me on all the social, because we just are always talking about really good things. I just recently posted a meme carousel of like what you need in a relationship based on your moon sign. So,
I loved it. I loved it.
So good. Yeah.
It was so good. And it's actually been really helpful with the clients I'm working with. I'm like,
yes.
Does this resonate with you? No.
I know. Everybody, it's like, and people are like, oh, that would resonate with anyone. And I'm like, no, a lot of these combinations, I'm like, but mine totally made me bawl. When I put all that together and I really thought about it, it completely changed my life. And I was in the camp of like, I will literally never find this. I need a partner who reassures me and sets me free. I mean, who does that?
Obviously your husband.
Turns out he does it spectacularly.
Beautiful. And he's an Aries, right?
He is an Aries. I love it. Aries are my favorites.
Well, both fire signs. So great amount of passion there.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So much passion. More than you can shake a stick at.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you want everyone to know about you?
I want everybody to know about themselves, that they're doing so much better than they know, and that the things that you feel in perpetual resistance to about yourself, you don't need to keep feeling that way. You're welcome to. You can do it as long as you want to, but there's usually a very clear-cut reason why you have had the struggles that you've had your whole life, and you can be set free from that.
Beautiful. I completely agree. All right. Well, thank you, Naomi.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was absolutely a joy. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.